Reddit by Reddit recap. What was your most low effort, desperate, Hail Mary attempt to get laid that you were surprised actually worked? Walked up to a woman in a bar, whose name I didn't know, didn't say hi, and asked, do you want to get out of here? I got her name the next morning, and immediately forgot it. Got dared to say to a girl at uni, wanna go back to mine? I have a big dong. For some reason she was surprised when she pulled it out back at mine. A couple of friends was giving me, a girl I was seeing but still didn't have sex with, and a girl I didn't know, a ride home. I asked the girl I was seeing if she wanted to stay at my place and she said no. It was like the 10th time since we were seeing each other she turned me down. So when she got out of the car I just turned to this other one on my side on the backseat and asked kind of as a joke, so what about you? Want to stay at my place tonight? And she just said yes. We had great sex and I never went out with the other one again. Was at the bar being hit on by a really creepy dude. Did a quick scan. Picked the most attractive guy standing alone and walked up to him. Hey, I'd rather awkwardly talk to you than listen to this go on about how our astrology signs match up. Ended up chatting for a bit. Went back to his place to watch a movie and now we're still together. I had just watched an episode of The Simpsons where Grandpa had to deal with his ex-wife and casually asked if they could still have sex. She turned him down. I was talking to an ex-GF who was going to be nearby, and while we were talking I dropped the same line, thinking it would be funny. She said yes. That kicked off years of her being an on-again off-again FWB. A guy once told my best friend that he had never gotten a BJ before. She was young and naive. She fell for this and wanted to be the first woman to give him a BJ. She took him in the other room and sucked him off until he came. She found out a few months later that he was full of it and she was pissed. It wasn't desperate, but it was a very low effort attempt. I was at a bar, and there was this cute girl there wearing bobby socks with these little frills at the top. I went up to her and I said, are you actually wearing bobby socks? She looked at me kind of funny and nodded and said that she was. I, in a low effort move, smiled and said, cool. I want you to leave them on when I'm ducking you in my truck 20 minutes from now. She kind of sized me up and just said, 20 minutes? While I know she told me her name at the time, to this day my friends and I still refer to her as Bobby Socks whenever that story comes up. Oh, and she did leave them on. At a party back in college and wandered to the basement to hide my jacket from being stolen. Two of my friends happened to be down there shagging and ask if I could grab them a condom. Sarcastically replies, only if you let me join in as well. And that, my friends, was how my first threesome started. I met up with a guy a couple of weeks ago. We were on our second drinks. He said something about getting up at 5 AM for work, but how that's cool as he would still get 4 hours sleep. I looked at the time and said, crashing out at 1, that gives us 3 hours at your place if we go right after these drinks. I wasn't expecting it to actually work, but he's now a solid FWB. After having a single cup of coffee with her at an IHOP, I said, wanna go back to my place and see how long it takes my tongue to get tired? Completely to my amazement, she said, yep, I do. And we went back to my ghetto flat and got grungy. I was walking around the streets at 6 AM after drinking all night. People were up and starting to go to work, but I was stumbling around. I go around a corner and this girl bumps into me. She was fresh and cute and out having a morning run. We crashed into each other. We both apologize. I said, wanna go to a hotel with me? She said, yeah, I guess so. And I found a hotel nearby and we smashed. I couldn't believe it. It was with my ex-wife. I threw a party at my house. After making flirty eye contact all night, I sat down next to her and put my arm around her. I told her I was a virgin, and that I've been saving myself for the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and that I couldn't believe that woman was sitting right next to me. She laughed. I kissed her, and we went straight to my room. The next 10 years were the best of my life. I was in college, my freshman year. and was sitting in the Commons cafeteria building with a guy I had met a few weeks earlier. We were both just sitting there in a back corner making lewd comments about basically every girl we saw. Fast forward about 40 minutes and we both spot a girl sitting at a table with her friends and he gets me I can't get her number in 20 minutes. I wait for one of the seats to clear, walk over, stop her mid-conversation, extend my hand and say hi, can I get you a number? Not only did I get her number, but I dated her for 2 years until she cheated on me and left me for the previously mentioned guy. Nothing about her was worth it, but it did prove a point at the time. Roommate story, not mine. Me and my 2 roommates were at a club. One of my roommates was super desperate and spent the whole night dancing with this one girl. My other roommate and I were just there for moral support I guess and spent the whole night drinking at the bar. At closing time, the girl gives my desperate roommate a hug, walks over to my other roommate at the bar with me, and hands him her number. He never said a word. Asked a girl I was in a scene with in college if she wanted to come over and run lines at 11 PM. I played the scene as seductively as possible, put on a few moves and went in for a kiss. Worked like a charm. We were ducking in my bed within a half hour. I met a woman at a sold out concert. I was in line to buy any returned tickets. She was ahead of me to sell back an extra ticket for her friend that couldn't come. We chatted in line, and I just offered to buy her ticket. The seating was assigned, so of course, I was sitting next to her for the concert. Afterward, I offered to take her out for a drink as thanks. She was in town, London, just for the weekend for the concert and to see some friends, so was staying at a hotel near the concert venue. I walked her to the hotel and said goodbye, even though we had good chemistry that evening. About half an hour later, I texted her, saying something like, I wish I had asked to come in with you, instead of just saying goodbye. She replied a bit later something like, me too. This was about midnight. A few hours later, around 4 or 5 in the morning, she texted me again just saying something like, come to me? I did. Once, in a very drunken stupor, I said to a girl, you know what I like about you? You're a bear, I'm a bear. I just want to spend the weekend with you. Running around the jungle, trying to steal picnic baskets, while being driven home by my buddy, who witnessed the entire calamity. The girl sent me a text. How could I say no to that sales pitch? Tomorrow at 9, my buddy looked me square in my drunken eyes and said, I can't believe this. I'm going to drive this car right off a bridge. Friend story who doesn't Reddit. They had a fight and she was leaving. He threw a beer bottle at her car because he was pissed. It broke the back windshield. He assumed she was going to lose her mind but she thought it was hot because she's crazy. So they banged all night. He couldn't stop laughing when he told me the story. I had recently gotten this girl's number and we had flirted a few times. I called her one night and she didn't answer. I left a message on her machine because it was that long ago. But she called me back a few hours later while I was out at a bar with some friends. I asked if she wanted to meet us and she said she had to pick up a friend from the airport the next day. I said I live closer to the airport than you, and I have an alarm clock. We were in my bed having amazing sex like 4 hours later. Out drinking with some buddies on St. Patrick's Day, I said out loud, good lord, everybody's trying so hard to get laid. Imagine if you could just be honest then with literally no extra effort other than turning my head. I asked a woman if she wanted to make out. She laughed and said okay, made out in the smokers area out back and eventually hooked it up that night and a few more times. She said she appreciated the bluntness of my request. Apparently I was right and everyone was trying way too hard that night. I've been on the receiving end of these way more often. What can I say? I'm pretty easy, but I've put in some surprisingly poor efforts myself. The one that comes to mind was at a party a couple years ago. Things were winding down, and most of the people there were either passed out or already hooking up. I was sitting on the couch with some guy I barely knew, so I turned to him and said, if you walk me home we can duck. He said okay, walked me home, and then ducked me. Years ago, In a hot sweaty meat market of a bar late at night, quite drunk, a lady bumped into me on the dance floor. I immediately just said cab. 10 minutes later we were on our way to her place. At a friend's college graduation bash, the house was basically split into two halves. The party side, with a beer pong table, stripper pole, loud music, and whatnot, and the quiet side, where people could go to just relax and chill out. Having just smoked my first bowl in several months, I was taking it easy in the quiet side, and a quartet of girls I barely knew were having a conversation that somehow turned to pubic hair grooming. One of the gals mentioned that she was currently keeping an all-natural look. I chimed in, mentioning that I had not yet been with someone who rocked a natural bush, and asked if I could see it, which I probably never would have done had I not been thoroughly baked. She said sure, and we went up to the bathroom where she pulled down her panties and hiked up her skirt, and yada yada yada. We wound up boning in the garage. Best comment of the day. I can think of two right away. 1. I was in a crowded bar in college and I stepped on something. It was a set of keys. At the time, women had all sorts of stuff on their keychains, so I readily eyed them as some woman's keys, rather than turn them into the bartender / lost and found. I just started asking attractive women if these were her keys. Second woman I asked claimed the keys and I took her home. 2. I met a woman online after my divorce, and I was taking things slower than in the past. See above. Lol. I guess she was getting frustrated and blurted out, "What do I have to say to get you to go to bed with me?" I replied, "That works. Let's go." Both were disappointing. Recommend you don't phone it in, so to speak. Good luck out there.